This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show at the Rainbow Bar and Grill in beautiful Hollywood, California to celebrate and honor Ronnie James Dio's 80th birthday and the release of Dio's debut masterpiece, Holy Diver, now remixed and remastered with Doug Pinnick, vocalist and bassist of King's X. First, talk about Ronnie and the impact he had on your life.
First heard him on Long Live Rock and Roll. When I heard that voice, I wanted that voice, and I listened to him a lot until Holy Diver and on and on. 20 years later, I guess, my band King's X got to tour with him, and we got to hang out, and I got to know him as well as you could for a tour, and we had a lot of good times. I love the guy. He was a fan, and I was a fan of his, and we let each other know it. And it was a real honor for me to know that he liked what I did, because he was a huge influence on me.
One of the things that really stood out about King's X to me was your bass tone.
Thanks.
I mean, besides you having an amazing voice, which was groundbreaking in heavy metal at the time, if you want to call it heavy metal, heavy rock, whatever, it was groundbreaking. Nobody sang like that,
Thanks.
right? And so tell me about that bass tone. It was almost like a distorted, overdriven.
Well, John Entwistle and Chris Squire from Yes, John Entwistle from The Who. I mean, those guys, when I heard them play live, I was like, I have to have that sound. So, it's morphed into my own kind of tone, but it still literally comes from them. Guitar amp and bass amp together, you put them together and you get that static on the high end and the low end and the bottom. I just kind of turned up real loud.
Tell me two highlights from your time so far in King's X.
Doing Woodstock 94, playing for 200,000 people, right when the sun went down. MTV said we woke up the crowd. Howard Stern said we blew everybody away. It was great. Most exciting times. Most horrifying, too. I mean, playing for that many people, just the whole situation was overwhelming, but it was something I'll never forget. Oh, man, playing Jon Stewart's show right after Woodstock. That was like, okay, we did it. It was awesome.
What are some of your favorite relationships that you made with other musicians and rock stars during that period?
Guys in Alice in Chains, Jerry, and I knew Laney. Well, I know all the guys in Pro Jam. Jeff from Pro Jam and Mike McCready. We had a side project together called Trace Mountains. Pantera, I mean, they're good friends of mine. We hung out all the time. Kind of grew up around each other, so we all influenced each other. Chris Cornell, same thing, I knew him. Tom Morello. I mean, in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when everybody just kind of came to the forefront and all these bands popped up, a lot of us knew each other. We watched each other become who we were. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I used to watch them back in the day when the first record came out in Texas. I know them. Me and Chad were going to jam together. We've never done it before, but we're still planning on it. So it's like you just watch everybody get there, grow up, and get old kind of too, I mean, like everybody's kind of in their 50s and 60s and 70s now. For anybody who's making music, it's all about the adventure. All the stuff that happens through that adventure is the history, it's the fun, and don't forget that.
Tell me if this is true or not, but I heard you were an original member of Petra.
Not original.
Okay.
Jerry, our drummer, and King's X, we both joined Petra officially, and then they broke up before we had a rehearsal.
What was that like? Because I worked for Stryper in the 80s.
Well, for me and Jerry, we were, really Christian, and we there was no Stryper, or maybe there was, I'm not sure. But I remember we didn't understand Stryper. We liked him, but we didn't understand. But we were happy because it was like, they're pushing the envelope here. They're really pushing it. But I've always loved regular rock and roll. And so even when I was a Christian, I still listened to it. And I still felt like it was a legitimate thing. And I thought that most Christian rock music would sound like crap because there was no anger and angst. You had to be perfect for Jesus. And I was finding myself trying to get away from that. And so when I joined up with Petra, we thought we'd made it. I thought, oh man, we're in the big time now. But then, you kind of get around that life and those people and you realize that they're really no different than anybody else. You just got a better chance out there instead of in there, And so I started King's X, and we wanted to be a regular rock band. We didn't want to play churches. We didn't want to say, hey, everybody get saved. We're just going to be a rock and roll band like everybody else, because it seems like that's the playing field is level there, you know, and you become who you are on your own merit.
So you were based in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, but how did you get to know the Alice in Chains guys and Chris Cornell and the Pearl Jam guys? Was because they were centered in Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. So how did those relationships come about?
It's weird. I mean, I remember King's X played in Seattle in '88, and according to Jeff Ament, every band in town came to the show. He said that no named act would ever come to Seattle, so if a band came, they would, you know, everybody showed up. And Richard Stuber, who played in the Fastbacks, who was with me and Jeff and Mike in our side project called Trace Mountains, he told me that when we played, he told me that everybody was there, the same thing. And he said that Alice in Chains were there and other people, and we met Alice in Chains after the show, and they gave me their demo. I remember then Jeff started flying to the East Coast whenever we'd hang out at Metal Blade or do a show, and he would hang out. He would just be there, and I'm going, who's this guy? And they go, he plays in Mother Love Bone. And we became friends, and we talked about 12 strings and stuff. And he invited me to come to the Mother Love Bone rehearsal for their album, and I never got a chance to do it. But the first Pearl Jam record, the first thank you is to me, Doug Pinnick. Nobody knows that, nobody cares, but I smile. So we all go back pretty far. Me and Chris just kind of were fans of each other, and our paths would cross, and we would just, there was this love between us. There wasn't a lot of talking. We talked about stuff and talked on the phone, but there was this vibe we had. There was this cozy. You know, you could hug him. He was affectionate, and he was just like this cool guy, and he always made me feel good. I remember the first time I met him, and he had come to see King's X play at the Palladium in LA, and I remember I was so nervous I could barely walk on stage and sing. The thing about Soundgarden is when their first record came out, or their first major record, the first song on the record had this weird eerie sound to it, and the first song was a drop D tune song. Well, the first King's X record, we had the eerie sound and drop D tune song on that record. So we both sounded alike on that one song, and between the two of us doing the drop D thing, and then Alice in Chains coming along doing it, and then that whole groove thing that King's X was doing, I think everybody started to embrace it, even Pantera, because Dime told me, he said there'd be no Pantera without King's X. First time I met those guys is we did an in-store together. Our first record had come out, and they had a record coming out, and we both met each other at this in-store and sold each other's records and played each other's music all the time and hung out. Yeah, it was a really cool time.
What did you love about Lane Staley?
Lane was the most innocent, loving, wide-eyed kid you ever saw in your life. He looked up at me like a big brother. And I remember one time he got clean and sober, and I ran into him at Lollapalooza, and he said, Doug, I've been clean and sober for a whole month. You proud of me? And he looked up at me, and I gave him a hug, but to say, are you proud of me, it meant something. He was really trying. He was just such a loving soul. The other thing is, every time we hung out, we got drunk. And then I went home drunk, and he got on a tour bus or whatever. And they opened for us. Alice in Chains opened for King's X at the Limelight in 1990, I think it was. And the record had been out for a month. And that's when we got to really know each other. So it's funny because I guess I've known those guys for a long time too.
Eddie Vedder.
We were on tour together, and he said to me, Doug, I'm so frustrated. He says, I just give and give and give to these people. I don't feel like I'm giving them enough. I just got to give them more. And I said, Eddie, you've already wowed them with the record. And I said, whatever you give them is going to be way more than enough. I said, if you just stood in front of that mic and never left it, I said, they still would be there. And that night, he walked on stage and stood in front of the mic and didn't move the whole night. And he brought the house down, and I cried. I'll never forget that. He might never remember that, but I'll never forget, because I watched from the side of the stage, and I'm going, my God, he's not going to move. It was an amazing night. He sang his heart out.
He comes off as being a very disciplined, very centered individual.
Yeah, he is. He knows what he wants. and he's well, you know, we all do. I mean, we all have our ups and downs. We all are human, but you know, he knows what he wants. He goes for it. He doesn't back down.
Did you ever have encounters with Kurt Cobain?
I know Dave, but I've never met Kurt.
What do you think about Dave?
I love Dave to death. Dave is awesome. You know, he's so much fun. At Rita's Dime Bash, he brought his barbecue pit out and just like 30 pounds of barbecue meat, and he baked it and stuff, and we hung out and talked and stuff, and he jammed. But yeah, I love Dave.
I interviewed Roger Daltrey one time. That meant a lot to me. And I said, what has been the highlight of your career? And he's like, just having a career has been a highlight.
You know, it's true. It's true. That you know, similar. I just say it's a journey, man. Don't think about making it or not. You never make it. You're never going to do that. Just about the journey. Look at all the shit that you get to do on the way, good and bad. What did you learn? You know, you did it. What's worse than staying home and not following your dream and just living a miserable life and settling? What are we here for? Go for it. You know, fall on your face, break your neck, you know.
How old were you when you realized, like, hey, this is about the journey? Because let's face it.
I was old.
Because I was going to say, when we start off, it's all about making it.
No, I mean, I realized it was about the journey. I could articulate it, but I've always just kind of put one foot in the other and just kept going. I mean, in the back of my mind, oh, I want a big record deal. Oh, I want a big money. I want to be on MTV. I want all that shit, you know. But it wasn't like the big thing. It was like, I always thought it was a byproduct. And the byproduct did what it did. It didn't do what I wanted it to, but it didn't matter because I was too busy enjoying the journey. You know, it's like, okay, you didn't sell 1 million records this time. Well, let's make another one. You know, oh, you didn't sell 1 million ones. But hey, man, you're selling records. People are buying them. But oh, you didn't sell 1 million. Hey, who cares? I got a paycheck still. And then you get to play for a lot of people all over the world and do things that only people dream of. You know, so at the end of the day, that's what I say. It's all about the journey. I don't know a rock star yet who feels like they made it. They always feel like they haven't reached it yet. They haven't written that song yet. They haven't made enough money yet, you know.
That's crazy.
Isn't that the way we are, though? I mean, I say to people, oh, man, band's doing okay. And other people go, well, my band can't even get a gig here. And I'm going, well, yeah, I guess it's just different levels, you know.
Well, here in L.A., I mean, there's a scene going on here in L.A. right now. And I'll tell a lot of the people, look, the fact that you're up there playing music, you're already blessed.
True.
Because the fact that you get to do that. You know, okay, so what if you're not making or you're not signed yet? You get to play music and make people happy.
That's right. I think we need just a place that bands can play for free over and over and over again, like CBGB's. Get the worst bands in town and get them in there and see what they turn into. You know, literally. Yeah. I wish I had the money to do that. I would if I could.
What do you love about working with George Lynch and Ray Luger?
Those guys are really, really different players than Ty and Jerry. And with us, our band is no one brings a song in. We just jam something out and then we just work it into a song. And it's really easy, and there's a lot of trust that we have between each other because we all have been doing this for a long time. So we don't tell each other what to do or how to do it. Whatever somebody comes up with, I'm going to make something to come up with it. Somehow we had an uncanny way of making melodies out of stuff and turning 3 records out. We're going to work on another one too. George is a great guitar player. You know, he's so creative. If you leave him to his own devices, he comes up with incredible stuff. We put him in a bubble and go, you do what you do. Don't tell us what to do, George. You know, George will go, Doug, play this riff. I go, no, George, whatever you play, I'm going to do the opposite. And that's how we did it. We purposely give ourselves 100% of who we are in every song. And as a result of it, I like the music because I had nothing to do with it. And that's the fun of it, to enjoy something that you did for at least a period of time.
So what do you think of this new wave, this Instagram music culture that's going on?
It's a new wave. Been around long enough to see it's another wave. And it's a good wave. It'll take its run next 10 years, and then something else will come along. It's legitimate. A lot of times we forget that every generation has their own thing, and they interpret it their own way, and it's great. We compare them to the old or the classic. Isn't that what our grandparents did to us, you know, when we listen to rock and roll? So that doesn't change. So I just see it as the next thing. It's above my head. I can't keep up with that stuff, but I try to, and I have an Instagram account and all that kind of stuff, but I watch the younger people who can work that shit. Like we used to could work that shit when we were young, the way we did it. Putting the posters up.
Yeah.
On t-shirts. Art is always healthy. As long as there's conflict, there's art. And I think right now there's a lot of conflict, and I think art is starting to say something again.
What's next for you?
New King's X record, Let It Rain it's called. It comes out September 2nd, and the 3rd is my birthday, so I'm excited about that. We haven't put a record out in 15 years, and the single's out right now. I'm going to go do some shows, and that's the biggest thing right now.
Okay, so you're going to be touring.
Yeah, we got some shows on the East Coast. We got a show with STP and a couple other shows, just 3 actually, and then we're going home and then put the record out and see what we're going to do next.
Doug Pinnick, God bless you, man.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. All right, this is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with Doug Pinnick. Signing off. Bye-bye.
The Blairing Out Show.